fun, and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our social channels. And if you miss an episode, you can always go back and listen to it on the podcast. And this is the time of year we talk about this time every year because everyone around us, around me and Doug in the show, all have birthdays right now.
It's a birthday explosion.
It's a birthday explosion. Yours?
Was just recently on the 17th.
Okay. Yours?
Yesterday.
On the 18th.
Your dad's?
Coming up Saturday on the 21st, you know, as we're recording this live. And my mom's was just before on the 11th. I got a niece and a nephew that are squeezed in there with birthdays. I'm sure Russ has got some in his family. And my wife and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary in style.
Well done.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, we had a great time. So it's a
good job,
there's
everyone.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Lots of revelry.
Yeah, exactly. 866-594-4150. Let's start by going to Virginia and talking to Don. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Don, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning, fellas. Yeah, I have a couple questions concerning the fuel pump in my 2009 Honda Fit. When I do a normal start procedure, I go from off the key in the off position to the run position, and the lights come on in the dash. I hear the relay click. There's a brief whir from the pump, and then another click, and I wait a little bit, and then I start it. What's been happening over the last couple of days is that I get a high-pitched whine after that 2-second priming period. And so what I do then is I just go back to the off position, go to the run position, and kind of repeat it, and then the whine goes away. So it's a little sporadic. It doesn't happen every time, but when I clear it with the second procedure, the whine always seems to go away. So my three questions to you, is the pump bad, in your opinion? Is it near imminent failure? We have some things to do with the car. Should we take it out for fear of needing to get towed? And lastly, if it is kind of in bad shape, are there any particular brands? I've got 3 brands up here that I can choose from, and maybe your experience could guide me to which one to choose. That's about where I'm at.
The whine starts after the 2-second prime?
Yes. I mean, it's possible that I can't hear it that well, but there's a definite change between how it sounds during that 2-second period and then when the 2-second period is over. It's high pitched, it's loud, and it's very distinctive.
Interesting. Because after that 2 seconds, the pump is turned off. It might as well be removed from the vehicle and 1,000 miles away. It can't whine after it's done priming.
Okay.
But if it primes and you've got a noise in the lines, say possibly as pressure bleeds back through the pump, that could do that. Or if the relay clicks, primes, the relay clicks off, stops prime. If the relay was hanging up and now maybe it had partial voltage, 3 or 4 or 5 volts, so it was just barely dragging that pump along a little bit, that might be a noise you're hearing. I've never seen that. I'm just thinking of something that could happen.
Is the noise coming from the same area that you typically hear the pump noise from? I mean, you've got a good resonant idea where that's came through its whole life of the vehicle. Is it coming from another location, or is it coming from that same area?
It's coming from the same area. The fuel tank is like right between the passenger and the driver, and it seems like it's coming from the same area. I did, while it was whining one time, I did go out open the gas flap and take off the cap, it seemed to get louder. The wine did when I did that.
I bet it's bleeding pressure back through the pump when you shut it off. It's probably just it's not holding the valve, and the check valve in that pump is probably bad. Try to start the vehicle, let it run for 30 seconds, turn the key off, and go back there and listen to it.
Okay.
With the engine off. If it right away after you shut it off, if it's got that same noise back there, that's what it is this bleeding back to the tank.
Okay, so I'm picturing he's got the door open.
Yep.
He leans in, hits the key, and then goes.
Turns it off,
listen.
turns the key
Right,
off,
right.
and then runs right back.
Yeah.
And listens
Or
to
phone
that.
a friend and just have two people.
Yeah,
involved.
You can pull that
but
cap
you
off.
won't. He won't think of that next time he's got the friend there, and then he's going to think of it next time. It's so, yeah, it's.
Take the cap
Yeah.
off, start it up, let it run a few seconds, shut it off, go back
What?
there and listen.
Wait a second.
Okay.
Start the car with the cap off?
Yeah, so we can hear it.
That's against everything I've learned on this show for the last 25 years.
You're not going to run it 10 minutes. You're
Okay.
going to run it about
All right.
5 seconds.
Okay, so
Just
it's not gonna throw a light.
No,
I've
not
got
that
a really
quick.
smart golden retriever.
Oh, I love
Put
it.
him in the back.
It's not a bomb stripping
Or get
dog.
the key off.
It's a wine sniffing dog.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So if it needs a pump, what brands do you have to choose from?
A Carter, a U.S. Motor Works, and a Delphi.
Well, the Carter makes some really good products. Delphi is okay, but in the case of that Honda, I would probably choose the Carter. If I was going down a list on my screen, I do have Carters available to me. I would try that, but
Okay.
Does he
How
need
many-
to do it?
how many miles are on this?
Yeah,
Honda?
I was going to ask that question. How many miles are on it? That's kind of crazy. They don't go bad that
Yeah.
often.
It's 73,000, and I have to admit there have been times when I let the fuel level get so low that the little light comes on saying "Get gas soon, dummy."
Well,
And
that
I was
wouldn't
reading online that
hurt it.
that's hard on the pump.
Yeah, it's hard on the pump.
Oh, no.
See, the pump is in the way they're built. They have fuel until they run out of fuel.
They're
It
in a
keeps
bath.
keeps the pump cool. It's made that way now, so that's not going to hurt it to run it till the light comes on. Running it out until it starves, that can be a problem. You're not supposed to run them dry or cavitate
Okay.
them. But
Okay.
for us, I have never put a Honda fuel pump in a car with that low of miles. I just can't. I can't tell you the last time I put a Honda pump in with 500,000 miles. Period. I've got a number of customers with Hondas with over 300,000 miles, and they have just never had a pump. I've never had to deal with a weak one. It's just something that's not.
If you really wanted to know what's going on
sold
and
much.
you weren't sure about the noise, you could go in and have somebody do a fuel pressure test on it. Put a gauge on the line and see what's happening if that's changing. Is it if it was bleeding back pressure, it would drop pressure quickly after you quit with the initial prime. And you could somebody could watch that to see if there's actually something happening, or if there's some other noise that's resonating from that area that is not related at all, and you've got your mind thinking fuel pump, and maybe you just got to check that a little further.
Does he need to worry about it before they go on the road?
It's hard to say without.
I can't tell without seeing it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it's an issue.
We're doing noises over the radio, Chris.
That was his second question. I wanted to get that in there.
Yeah.
I heard him doing noises over the radio this morning.
We had a few, yeah.
Aruga.
Don, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Three friends talking cars. You decide if they know what they're talking about. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Texas now and talk to Vin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Vin, what can we do for you?
Good morning.
Hey, go ahead.
I have a 69 Camaro. In that, it has a new 400 small block Chevy from a builder. It has a dart block and it has aluminum heads. I won't say the company that built it, but it had a head gasket problem where it was losing coolant in the number 7 cylinder. They took care of that issue and installed new head gaskets. And during that time, they said they were going to upgrade me to Cometic MLS head gaskets. Ever since I got that engine back and reinstalled it, the temp sensor in the side of the head will go to like 230, 240 degrees while warming up. So I shut the car off. Let me back up. So when it's at 240, the temperature sensor in the near the thermostat housing says 150, 160. So I shut the car off. After about a minute or two, when the temperature's equalized because the thermostat kind of opened and the heat transferred, I start the car, everything equalizes, and it now reads fine. The 180 on the near the thermostat and like 190 in the head. And, I live in Texas and can run the car all day with AC on after the temperature's equalized. But it only does this every time I start the car when it's cold or cool.
I feel better now than I did when he started.
Yeah, it got better, but
Yeah.
Russ
Still-
is sitting there
yeah.
thinking,
I've seen this before, and I can't remember what it was. It's been,
Good luck, Vin.
If
30
you
Thanks for the
have,
call.
you would be the first person to say that.
it's 30 years ago. I think it actually is. I think it is actually getting hot. Get yourself a temp
Oh,
gun.
I know it.
Yeah, you get yourself a temp gun and point it at that coolant sensor on the side of the head. I think it's getting hot. What's happening when you fire that thing up, it's getting a hot spot. There's no coolant flow there, and it's got an air pocket in it. And then it starts moving. It might be that it actually still has a leak, a combustion leak in there, and it's pushing water away from that area of the block where that temp sensor is until it starts to warm up, and then that thing seals up. That's what was going on with that one we had. And I was in Texas. We had one that was getting really hot. It got so hot it cracked that head on it.
because it got so hot in that
Yeah,
area of
in
the
that
block.
spot. But I remember
Yeah,
we
that's
pulled
what
it.
I'm worried about.
We pulled it, but when we pulled it, we found that there was a defect in the gasket. It wasn't that it had just blown. We could physically see a defect in that now. I remember that now because we had that in a 78 Camaro, 77, 78. And it had that, but it had a defect. If this thing runs fine now that it's warmed up, then the head's probably okay, but it may not be. It may be that the crack is in the head, and once it warms up, it seals up. But it's got to go over that hill
Which
first.
would be unusual in an aluminum head.
Yeah,
It could have a casting issue or something.
Right.
That,
If it was my car, I'd pull the head off of that. We don't know.
which
what
he
the
doesn't
other
want to
head's
touch
doing.
it because somebody built it. And he's
Right.
like, they're telling him don't to touch it because he's going to break his warranty.
Well, and if it's got a warranty, that's when you take the heat gun and you point it at
Prove
the head,
to them what's going on.
and you get your camera out, and you hold that heat gun as soon as it starts up, and you let somebody else take a video with the camera and watch it, and watch that it goes up and then back down, and say, problem, fix it, and let them handle it. If
Get
it's
Don's
your
dog
own,
to take the video.
Yeah.
the sniffing dog.
Yeah.
But if it's something you got to fix yourself, the next step for me would be to pull the head. I'd probably pull both of them to find out what's going on, unless I can verify the other head doesn't get hot. But pull the head, inspect it, have it checked, make sure there's no cracks in it.
Could debris in the block cause that from when they?
Not that would come and then go. I wouldn't see that it would.
Yeah.
It would block it and then not block it when it's warm and then repeat.
Yeah.
One time I could see that doing that. And that type of block doesn't really have a flow problem, but those 400 blocks, they had those steam holes in them.
Can he do it quicker to make it less dangerous? Like when it gets to 200, he shuts it off, and does it come back then?
Hey, you know what? That block, so that's a 400 block with steam holes. You remember those, Shannon?
It's a dart block, so it doesn't have the steam
Oh, it's
holes.
okay. Okay, it's a dart. Yeah, you did mention that. I was just say because if it was a block with steam holes and you put regular heads on it and regular head gaskets, that's the problem you would have. It would heat up. There would be
Agreed. Yeah.
steam. There'd be no coolant in there because it doesn't bleed through. But I don't know if their block has a problem. Maybe that dart block, they've got an issue with it. And in that case, you should be able to find other people with the same issue. They didn't make just one with that problem typically.
All right, so this 69 Camaro, you bought it with this motor in it, or is this your project to put the motor in there?
No, I put this motor in it.
All right, so you bought this car, and now we got to ask you, this is definitely a Berkeley One classic. Berkeley's celebrating their 50-year anniversary, and we need to ask you, not ask you, we need to guess and tell you what color your car is, and you need to tell us if you're right. And I think this car, just because I feel silver today.
Silver, I'm going to come back to this, but I'm picturing black. I got black.
Yellow.
Yellow, okay.
Yellow.
Vin, what color is the car?
Car's blue.
Okay.
None of us are right.
Perfect. I was closest. I said black, and it was blue. So I'll take that one. Does that help you out there, Vin? Do you have a way to go there?
I think so. I don't want to tear it apart like you guys said because the warranty, but I think I only have 6 months left on it, and I'm ready to pull the heads on it anyway, just out of frustration. And the builder was willing to.
Yeah, get that video. But I would call first. I'd get him on the phone and say, "Yeah, this is Dart. What's up? My car overheats. I want you to see it because it's got to be fixed, and I want you to see how it's doing it. Would you like me to take a video because it's going to hit 240 degrees consistently every time I start it, while the thermostat says 180, and then once it warms up, it's going to go down. You want me to do this, or do you want to just take the engine and fix it before I run it again and do that? It's up to you. It runs all day long, and let them make that decision. If they say, well, yeah, we'd like to see that first, get a video of it, and we'll get a heat gun, pointed at that head.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it sounds like you're having enough challenges already, but we're going to make your day a little bit on behalf of Berkeley One, and we're going to get you a hoodie.
I'm going to put you on hold there, Vin.
And Doug's going to get your address and size, and we'll send you a hoodie from Berkeley One Classics.
Where are you at in Texas?
Houston, just south of Houston.
Plenty hot.
Yeah.
Plenty hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Vin, hold on a second. I'm going to put you on hold. We had at the end of my block growing up, there was a former corner grocery store that became a flower shop. And it was a young woman who owned the flower shop, and she drove a 69 Camaro SS, black white stripe. And I remember my brothers thinking it was really a perfect situation. And I thought it was an old lady in an old car. And that's all I thought.
And she was probably 23.
She was probably
24.
30, yeah. And then I remember one day it was like the world shifted, and I viewed both her and the car differently. I remember just not being impressed with either. And then one day I was impressed with both. I do remember that specifically. And it was black with white stripe. And that's always what I think when I hear that. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mike. You're on the Under the Hood show. Mike, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I just recently bought a 2018 Honda CR-V with a 1.5 and CVT transmission. My question is, I'm picking up from the dealer Saturday. I was wondering, would you recommend having transmission fluid flushed on that? Or is that, some people say never to do it. Some people say you never have to do it. I don't know. And I feel like the CVT transmissions are throwaway.
How many miles are on it?
100, 112, I think.
Yeah, it's a drain and fill, and it needs to be done. It needs to be done often.
Okay.
It's not you don't flush those. You drain them. Yeah, because of the design of the pump system and everything, they are made to be drained and filled. But you need to drain it and refill it
with the correct fluid.
And check to make it
fluid only.
May have been done, right? We could find out. I mean, we could find out if we won't know for sure if it has been, unless it has been, then we will know. Does that make sense?
If it's been done by a professional shop that it uses a system that you type into, then it's going to show up. Like we change fluid on a regular basis on a fleet of CRVs for one of our customers. And when we change those, he's got a Bluetooth deal plugged into his OBD2, and it just sends a message that says, hey, the mileage has come, change this. So we're changing these probably every 8-9 months.
But they're putting on boatloads of miles.
Yep.
How much is the fluid?
The fluid is like 16 to 17 bucks a quart, and it holds like 3 quarts.
Okay.
3.2, I think.
So,
And it's, I mean, we get 72 bucks to change it.
could I
It's
just go
not
out in my
that long.
driveway with a catch bait and just do
Yes.
it? Okay.
Yep. For you to do that, you would take the plug out, you drain it into the pan, you put the plug back in, you fill the
That's
fluid.
what I used to do all the time on my 2.4s, but I didn't know about these CVTs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new CVTs, we're doing 14 through 18 models, and we change that fluid a lot. I recommend anybody that's got a Honda or a Toyota with these CVTs, we're changing those on a regular basis.
And they're not anything to worry about anymore, are they? I mean, they just
Yeah,
newer? I mean, as long as you're doing that.
the Hondas are pretty reliable. They like these that we have not put a transmission in one of these. We're putting an engine in one that currently has 380,000 on it, I think. Time for an engine, but the transmission's still original and still working great. But we've been changing the fluid.
Mike, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
With over 2,000 episodes and over 200 stations, Under the Hood has the knowledge to make your car feel good. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. We're glad to have you with us. Russ, we have a couple sponsors here who are giving away a hoodie. All you have to do is go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and then join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel anytime, and if you miss an episode, you can go back and listen to it on the podcast, but you could win a hoodie.
From Berkeley One Classics, they're celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage, and Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu, our favorite place to go for automotive technician training. The winner of this hour is Lynette Rodriguez. Congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood.
Congrats. Have you noticed over the years how we all read things differently than we used to?
Yeah, and differently than differently.
We move it up and down in our vision, or we move it further away.
Oh, you
I
mean
remember
read things different?
Yeah, I just mean we hold things different to read them than we used to. I was just thinking back to when the three of us started together, how different just our whole everything is. Things are farther away. The paper's got bigger fonts.
There's a lot of things change.
I bet our phones are on bigger fonts. Have you
guys
changed
pee
the
at
font
every
of your-
break.
Yeah, exactly.
As often as I can.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Andrew. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Andrew, what can we do for you?
Hi, I've got a 2016 Ford Fusion. The last couple years, it's had battery problems. We've had it into service, had the battery checked, and the battery's pretty new. The battery seems to check out fine, but every once in a while we'll go and get in it. Well, we won't be able to get in it because we won't be able to unlock it unless we, pop the little cap off on the door and use the key to get in. It usually happens when it's warm outside. For a while there, I thought it might be if we happen to leave like the AC on or something. Just trying to come up with ideas in my head on why on warm days it would happen. It hasn't happened in a while. Sometimes wonder if it's how frequently we drive it. It doesn't get out on the road every day. But the last time it happened, I think, was early May, and I think it was less than 24 hours since the last time I had driven it. So kind of trying to see if I can pick your brain on what it might be. I'm not super mechanically minded, but between me and my father-in-law, I think we should be able to fix it if it's something we can handle ourselves.
And if you came up with it, it would be fine, right? I mean, if you came up with it over your father-in-law and you're like, hey, I think I got this, right?
Does it have a CD player in it still? Some of these cars didn't have.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
The one that just kind of came stock.
Yep, and a lot of them were gone by then, and now they're all gone. What's a CD? They say. We've seen a number of these with a CD player that's malfunctioning, and temperature can sure be related. They just run zzz,
Okay.
inside, and you don't really know it. Little motors go, and that'll run a battery dead in overnight because it keeps some other modules going. But you may just try to unplug the radio from the car. Just
Okay.
take it apart, look at YouTube, see how the dash comes apart. You can just pop it apart pretty easy, some screws, and unplug the radio, and then drive it without a radio for
Can he do a fuse?
a while.
Would that be easier? Okay.
No, it's just gonna have to unplug it.
Okay.
And then drive it
Okay.
when you
And
think it would normally
Is
be dead.
there
And if
okay?
it doesn't
Is
go
there
dead, you're good.
a way to? Is there a way to disconnect just the CD player from
Yeah.
all that, or like
Yeah,
power
if you
cord to
take,
that?
you got to pull the screen off, take the dash off, the face of it, pull the screen out, and then you got to pull the CD player out, which is, well, I think that's part of the radio.
Okay.
I think
I
you
guess
can
this
run the
is another.
screen without the CD player in it. I'm pretty sure.
Can
Maybe
he
not.
can he start by the next time it seems like it's can he just stick his ear right on it and see if
Oh
it
yeah,
I
but
mean
you could see if it's running, but you don't know if it kicks in after an
Yeah.
hour after you get the car
good
shut
point.
off.
Yeah. But if it does, I mean if it does
Yeah.
stay running, then you
If
know
you
it's
ever hear it running with the key out of the ignition and the
Mhm.
door open, there's a problem with it.
That's
How
crazy.
quick will it run it dead? Do you know?
Usually, this last time it was, like I said, it was less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Previous times it maybe have been like a day or two.
If you look at likely suspects, that is high on the list.
there you go.
I mean, that's just things that we've seen, and otherwise, that is a tough one, like we always say, because if it intermittently is going dead,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in a point where it's not going dead at the moment, and you sit there and try to check circuits, you're going to find nothing wrong, and that just creates a big
Yeah,
challenge.
That is one of his challenges to unplug it and then
Did I really fix it?
well the way to fix it would be if you let it run forever without it and it never goes dead again.
You also need to look at things that you can see that take no tools to fix.
Okay.
Start at the battery, follow the positive, only the positive wires, because ground wires that short are going to ground. They're not going to do that. But follow those positive wires all the way to their final destination where you can see them. For instance, at an Impala that would run the battery dead whenever it felt like it, might be a month, might be a day, you just never knew. But it seemed to run just fine. When I finally found the issue, when it got bad enough, one of the battery cables, the positive one, where it ran down below the front of the motor, was in contact with the air conditioning compressor pulley. Only when the motor would move a certain way on deceleration, so it was touching it, but eventually it let the wire move towards a little more because the heat was bending this wire, and it just touched through the insulation enough that it would barely make contact, suck the juice out of the car, but then you jump it and start it up, and it might be away far enough, a little bit of grease, it just wasn't doing it. So those kind of things you can see yourself at home without having any work done.
Andrew, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mark in Connecticut. Mark, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Good morning. I'm interested in information about a 2018 Mercedes-Benz C30 4MATIC. I play pickleball with a dear friend who's 72 years old, and her husband says it's time for her to have a Maserati. So she's going to sell the Mercedes-Benz, and I'm going to buy it. She only wants $16,000 for it. But my question to you is, how does this car rate as far as Mercedes-Benz in the year that it was made? Was it a good year, or was it just a mediocre year? I've never purchased a used car before.
A C30 is not a bad car. It's not any worse than any of the others. They do, Mercedes, BMW, and a couple others, they tend to hold great value for, let's say, 5-6 years. More so, it seems, than some other cars. Like if you took that and compared it to 5 other cars, it may hold its value more stable for the first 5 or 6
Well,
years.
you're going to have a drop in the beginning that's pretty substantial from new.
Just the off the lot.
Yeah,
But this
and
stable,
then we stabilize.
if they're all 6 months old, 3 months old, they're all going to keep pretty stable. But the Mercedes seems to be a little bit higher till you hit that about that 5-6 year mark, and then all of a sudden the rate at which it drops equals that of the other ones, but all at once. So you'll see a very significant. That's why this car is priced where it is, because that price drop off comes very quickly towards the end. Doesn't mean the car is worse. It just means that's where they are, because
that 4MATIC system, the all-wheel drive system, was proven by them. They had used it in a lot of vehicles for a lot of years. That C series is that small to mid-size sedan. It's a good-looking car. They had a solid engine. And we don't see a lot of problems pop up with them. I think that year range, they had figured things out pretty well. And of course, it's German engineering. It's a heck of a car. But you do see those cars with 150,000 miles on them that still work and look pretty darn nice. How many miles are on this one now? You said 70,000?
No, 42.
Oh, okay. I heard 70. That must have been another caller in my head.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
that's
plenty
awesome.
of people out there that can work on that too in your area. So that's also a factor if you're purchasing a car like this and you're in an
there's
area.
a lot around.
Yeah.
But that is the reason we see German cars, specifically BMW, Mercedes, they come down and they're not necessarily a great purchase at a low price, because if things happen,
They're expensive to work on.
if you break a headlight and you're not in an area where there's a bunch of Mercedes headlights, you might be paying way more than you would if your Chevy Trax headlight broke.
Yeah, exactly. I have a real serious question on this pickleball thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, do you guys like go into the club at 72 years old? Is it like the Michelob commercial where you're just schooling all the young kids and like setting them up for bets? I mean, is it like a Minnesota Fats type thing where you're just tricking them all and then you're just kicking their butts and then getting beers from them, or how's this go?
Pickleball hustler?
Exactly what it is. My wife and I started playing, and when COVID started, it was a sport that we could play and not be around each other and not be around other people.
Okay.
And,
That's a better
we fell in love
explanation.
with it. Took us 38 years to find a sport that we loved, and my wife and I are kick ass. We really are good at it. We're both in great shape. We work
that's
out
fun.
daily. Our
that's
diet's
fun.
clean.
Because I love
So
that.
all helps.
I love that Mick Ultra commercial where they're schooling all the people at the country club on.
It's all about maintenance. That there are some at that many miles due to the age, it's right premium time to do some maintenance items to keep it going too. If you go to bgfindashop.com, you will find shops in your area that can do those maintenance services and get you up to speed. But also, when you're there at bgfindashop.com, look at the names, because you'll find European shops and cars that work on the foreign cars.
All right.
Don't go to Joe's Chevy Repair. You'd want to go to the shop that's like all foreign, that kind of European car repair.
When we did our interview with BG,
Giuseppe's Auto Works.
Yeah.
remember we did that interview? Something I learned is that
With Spiro.
with Spiro, is that when you do the services with them and get in a consistent basis, they offer a warranty.
They do. If
You have to look into that program.
This car would fit into that because of the low mileage on it. And they cover
I was
those.
not aware of that until we had that interview.
Yeah, so check that out.
Mark, thanks very much for the call. Good luck, and go get him. I've never played pickleball. My two best friends do all the time, and I just haven't made it up to play. I'm interested in that as I get older and older.
You should get out and move.
Shut up. 866-594-4150.
That was not subtle.
I mean, move closer to us. You're so far away out there in
yeah,
Minnesota.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
YouTube certified mechanic. Yeah, that's not quite what they mean by certified mechanic. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. It is time to go to Ohio and talk to Frank. You're on the Under the Hood show. Frank, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Appreciate your show. I got some general questions about U-Pullet yards. So I have a 2019 minivan. I've never seen one in a U-Pull yard. Then they have a 2014 Ford Focus. I went to a U-Pull yard. They had 3 in the exact same color. And then I went to another U-Pull yard, and they had 2 Maserati bi-turbos. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, how old does a car have to be to make it to a U-Pull yard? And how long do they keep them there before they get rid of them?
I'm sorry, Frank, we can't answer that question. That is a secret, an industry secret.
This is super intriguing to me, this question, because
I agree.
What part of the country are you in? Ohio? What part of Ohio?
Cincinnati, yeah.
All right. And when you went and looked at these different self-service facilities, U-Pull yards, did they have a single pricing structure, or did they have like 3 lines of pricing structure? What did you see for their pricing structure?
Generally single pricing structure. I think one of the yards had like a premium section where they would keep some of the cars that had some more high value parts.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just curious, because it's not a blanket you can throw over all of them. The industry has been just evolving. It's weird when you think of it. I mean, the self-service facilities have been all the rage for the last probably 15 years, maybe close to 20. They've kind of came back. It was the reinvention of the way it used to be, but done in a clean, environmentally friendly way, and a way to rotate,
safer.
a way to rotate through a lot of vehicles, turn them and burn them, working off the scrap value, and trying to figure out, how many units you can pump through the system and pick up a little bit of profit. And for many of the self-service facilities, the money they get off of selling parts is enough to offset operating expenses, so that they can work the metals markets and the catalytic converters and all that stuff. So having said that, I think of our own. We're in a slow-moving market. We don't have as many people as like Cincinnati. You guys got millions. We have hundreds of thousands is all. And so our stuff sits longer because we don't get the foot traffic as often. Our pricing line is very low. So for us to be able to put a vehicle out there and have it make sense, we have to buy it within certain parameters of price. Now, I've got a good friend of mine that is in the industry. He's opened up a new model out in Washington State, and I follow him on Instagram, and they put some amazing vehicles in their U-Pull yard. But they've created a hybrid system where they're also dismantling some of the parts and pulling them and having them for sale in their lobby at different prices. And they're just integrating some different concepts to be able to have a more diverse and newer, deeper inventory. And in some cases, classics like square body Chevys that I've seen some of them they put in there. There's people who want to restore them, and they're like putting them in there and letting people have at it and having some fun with it, kind of as, market leaders too. So it all is about the economics. Those Maserati bi-turbos are probably something that came through their system on how they buy cars, and they potentially bought them at the right price and figured, hey, let's just let her go and see what happens. And in other cases, like in our case, we have vehicles that we will take and buy a vehicle for outside of the typical price range. A lot of stuff in our self-service is something that we've bought from scrap price to $1,500, and because that's the only way you can sell a fender for $37 or $27 or whatever the price is of that particular part. When we get that newer vehicle, we can often take something and find the same type of thought process. You know what? I know we need that transmission. Everybody else needs that transmission too, but we can remove that transmission and sell it for $900.
And it will be worth paying someone to do it and store it.
Right. And we can bring the cost down to that vehicle, and then the remnants can go to the self-service. Now, people are going to go up there and say, well, I can't find that hard to find transmission up there for $89. Well, I'm sorry. That doesn't make business sense for us to do that in our particular situation. But the models are rapidly changing over the whole country. I'm the president of our trade association here in the next year, and we watch what people are doing, and there's a lot of different models evolving. People have premium sections, like you said. They have multiple price lines. If a vehicle's a certain type of vehicle, you pay certain price lines. You've got ranges of keeping the vehicles in the yard. Will be in some places in the big cities, they will change out rows weekly. And in some cases, we have rows that sit in our facility for 6 months. It all depends.
And the fact that there's no 19s and a bunch of 14s makes sense at any point in time for any.
It's economics,
thing, right?
The 19 minivan. What kind of minivan is it?
Honda.
Yeah, a 19 that generation of Honda Odyssey van. They're still bringing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 at the salvage auctions.
Yeah.
You can't buy that vehicle and put it into a self-service facility. It just makes zero sense.
So in any number of years for any type of vehicle, it's going to end up.
Whereas a
on
Ford
that next
Focus,
side.
they're historic for popping transmissions, and the trannies go junk, and the trannies are stupid expensive, and most people are like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to get a different car. The car is worth $5,000, $7,000, $7,000 maybe, and the transmission is going to cost $3,000, $5,000. I don't know if I want to do that or not.
Yeah.
And so they'll just punt on the Focus, and then that car becomes available in the market and can end up in a facility like that. Does that answer your question, Frank?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the insider view.
Yeah, no problem.
very
Thanks
much
for the question.
Frank, thank you, because that's a question that I've always want to ask. I mean, that stuff is fascinating.
I love the reasonable question because it is quite, we got a lot of calls here. I'll finish this quick. The perception that myself and our employees have is like, why would you even think that? And I have to remind people all the time, they don't do what we do every day.
Right.
So somebody else just says, oh yeah, they got great savings. I should be able to go out there and get a 22 Corvette wheel for $32. It just, they don't, but if I went into their world and started asking questions, I wouldn't have a clue about what their world is until I start learning about it. So I get it.
Yeah.
People just don't understand how something works sometimes.
I like that. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Charles in Iowa. Charles, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Got a pickup here, 2003, and I'm running out of Band-Aids out of the jar covering all the stuff that's flashing on my dash. I just curious what I got to do here. Heard you guys talk about it last fall or something. Same thing's happening to me right now.
What do you got going on? What's the major problem there? That you got a lot of lights coming on, but
all the lights, and then the alternator's going to zero, and then back to normal.
Oh,
okay.
Jack airbag.
And it's running good though.
Four-wheel drive.
If you covered up that dash, you wouldn't know that there's a problem, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you might have just an instrument cluster failing. That's pretty common. The alternator light will come on when it is actually charging properly. Fuel gauge will bounce around, oil pressure gauge, speedometer might not work sometimes, and that's a common issue. Our partner over at Dorman Products sells an entire cluster for that thing. They're going to run you probably somewhere between $250 and $300. You can
with a substantial core on the
it's
exchange
like a $600
on the
core,
exchange program that
but
they have.
you bring them your old one.
Yep.
So you go in, you give them your vehicle identification number, your
so you
mileage,
need the full amount to get it, but you're not going to use it all.
and then they will go ahead and get it ordered up for you. You bring it home. You give them your old one. You can swap it out right there.
They make it plug and play.
Yeah, and then you bolt
That's why
it
they
in,
do it this way.
and it's ready to go. And that's how, if you've got a speedometer cluster issue, that's how you fix that.
Yeah, because they have to have your VIN number so they can have it staged and programmed, ready to plug right into your vehicle when it comes in.
When can I get a speedometer app and then just cover the dash with a piece of cloth and just look under it for like fuel?
They have them on for all phones.
Yeah,
for all the
just
sources.
get one and then cover it up. Just
But
ignore
you
it.
still got to know what your fuel level is.
I did have a vehicle that was in that era of a Yukon that went crazy doing stuff like that too. It was after I'd had a warranty transmission put in from the factory, and they forgot to hook up a ground strap as tight on the top of the bell housing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could have a grounding issue somewhere. That would be another thing to check with that many things acting screwy. But the clusters are a problematic item.
Even the door lights wink, the passenger airbag lights winking on the mirror, and
Those are more than a cluster.
That's why I wanted to say that before we hung up.
Before you put a cluster in, you need to fix those other items first, and all those do go to a G101. The main ground for that does connect to the transmission bell housing assembly. There's a stud that goes in tight first, and then there's a wire and the nut. And a lot of times what happens is they'll put the nut on tight, but the stud is not tight, so it's walking around in the block.
That's exactly
what
happened.
As it moves, grease and dirt are in there, and it loses contact, even though the bolt is in there, and you lose that ground. So you can reach around the whole back side of that when it's cool and wiggle them and see if any of them move. And if they do, you got to address that issue. If they don't, you could just get an extra wire and try to test it between the negative of the battery and ground to that wire there and see if the problem goes away.
Yeah, there's also a BCM in that vehicle that could get a little funky, and that is another thing in your step of looking. Ground, and then that.
Charles, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's going to do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. We've got a full call log ready to go, so let's get right to the calls because we don't want to leave anybody hanging if we can help it. Let's start in Pennsylvania and talk to George. You're on the Under the Hood Show. George, what can we do for you?
Hey, what's up, guys? Quick question.
Okay.
Still there?
Yep. Go ahead.
Sorry. So I just recently bought a car for my daughter, 2011 Toyota Camry XLE, 4-cylinder. It has 175,000 miles on it. We paid about 8,000 for it. Bought from a Toyota dealer. Just need some advice with some maintenance that we should do to this vehicle. Through the Carfax, it had an oil change every 5,000 miles its whole life. One owner, no accidents. If I can just run by what was already done to it. At 150,000 miles was the first time maintenance was really done to it. Catalytic converter replaced, muffler replaced, serpentine belt, and resonator. At 160,000, they did the antifreeze coolant flush, thermostat housing gasket replaced, and then the dealer did at 175,000 miles, alternator replaced, brakes and rotors all around, front calipers, valve cover gasket, cylinder gasket, camshaft gasket, new tires and alignment. So my question is, through the Carfax, I've never seen anything about the transmission drain. I don't know, with 175,000 miles, is it worth the risk of drain and fill, or do I change the transmission filter, drop the pan, ignition coils, do I change them? Do I do a throttle body injector cleaning, fuel additive treatment, anything with this many miles? I don't want to mess this engine up.
Russ, can I ask a quick question just to set something up here? You said that you do have the oil change records on Carfax going clear back to when the car was new, or when did that? Okay.
Yep.
So somebody's been reporting. I just want to see when I wanted to see when the reporting started. That's all I was asking for.
So on a car like this, so start with the transmission. I would look at the condition of the fluid. That's probably going to be a drain and fill type transmission, but look at the condition of it. If it's not smelling very burnt and looks completely black, like it's charcoal, then you should be fine changing it, and it should be a drain and fill on that one. And I would go ahead and do that. As far as the maintenance goes with the vehicle, yeah, it's got some miles on it, it's got some time on it. I would, at the very minimum, get on a maintenance program with it. I would use like the CRC Guaranteed to Pass emission system cleaner. That'll help clean out the fuel injectors, the back of the valves, even the catalytic converter and things on that, to keep those clean before they become a problem. And also cleaning the fuel injectors that way is going to help with fuel mileage and just general overall performance of the engine.
And they're a partner of ours.
Yes. And as far as performance goes, coils on these cars, we have replaced a number of them. The problem is if they go bad and they're left that way for even a short period, they can harm the catalytic converter and they can cause damage to cylinders. Because some people drive them, they won't know what's going on. They'll be kind of shaking and jerking at 45, 50 miles an hour, and they'll do that for a couple months, and then the light starts flashing. They're like, oh, I got a misfire. And by that time, it may be too late. There are going to be some issues. So coils that's basically a tune-up item. The coil and the plug boot comes together. You replace those as a set. You do it. We prefer to use the standard coils because they're built a little heavier. They've got some extra windings in them. They're insulated better. They keep the moisture out, and they push off that heat that builds up on them that kills these coils in the first place. I mean, pretty much on a car like this, if you put them in now in an 11, you're probably going to go, another 10, 15 years before you're changing
your life of the car, I think.
And definitely a set of spark plugs while you got the coils out. You're staring right at them. Let's put some spark plugs in it.
My wife and I had the same car for our daughter. It was an 09, same generation, same 4-cylinder motor. Such a good car. We drove that car. My daughter drove it from the time she was 14 years old until college, and up to 100 and some thousand miles. We sold it to somebody in great shape. And so the transmissions, I know from our salvage yard experience, we don't get a lot of demand for them.
No.
So I think taking care of it should be pretty straightforward on the drain and fill if it doesn't look burned up.
I like that stuff has been done. Is there any worry that so much stuff has been done?
One thing I was going to make a comment on before we move on was that the things that they did late in its life, people wouldn't have done to it, some of them, if the car was failing.
Okay. All right.
I got a little nervous when I heard catalytic converter.
Yeah.
And then a coolant flush and some of that stuff right close together.
It may have needed a cat because it had a problem with a misfire.
Yeah. And
at some point.
But then like 5,000 miles later, somebody invested in alternator, brakes, all this other stuff that
We've put a few alternators on those Camrys. They had some factory issues.
But some of that stuff you wouldn't have probably done if the car was having a bigger problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. The dealer wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Not maintenance stuff. You wouldn't be trying to just do the small stuff if something big was up.
It looks like they were spending money on the car.
There you go. George, thanks very much for the call. I feel good about that car. I like that. I feel pretty good about it. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mike. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mike, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I got a 2018 Dodge Ram 1500. It's blowing antifreeze out of the overflow. I've taken it in, and they said there might be some blow-by on a couple cylinders. It doesn't overheat. It runs great, drives good. I don't know. They're talking like $800-900 to fix it, or put a new motor in for like $12,000. What would you recommend?
Just a second here. I got to back up a little bit. Something doesn't make any sense to me. What were they going to do for $800?
No.
$8,000 for $8,900.
Oh,
I thought he said 8 or 900.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And Russ did not.
89.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll just
for
forget I asked that
89,
question.
Yeah.
That's funny. We're putting a brand new
Are
engine.
they just putting a Band-Aid on it?
Probably, because we're putting a brand new engine in an 18 Ram right now, and it is $9,100. That's a 3-year, 100,000 mile warranty, brand new engine. Basically, it's all rebuilt, and that's with everything. That's fluids, filters, seals, gaskets, tune-up items like spark plugs, coil boots, water pumps. So you can find a better deal if you look around wherever you're at.
Okay.
If you needed it, but when these blow coolant out of them, usually it's just one thing. It's a head gasket that has failed, but you need to find out why it failed. Like this one, when we're done getting this engine in, because it was apart when it came in, so we couldn't test it. We are going to test the exhaust back pressure on both sides immediately before we go too far, because this thing, if they're known, they'll start having some issues, and they might be burning some oil or something. They'll plug up the catalytic converters. They'll get excessive back pressure. It'll overheat the cylinder temps, and they'll kill the head gaskets, kill the heads, and we don't want that happening again. Also, you want to make sure the radiator is clean between the AC condenser and the radiator. It's got to be spotless. It's got to be clean. And on the front side, too, as well, and no bent-up fins, because if you don't have proper airflow, that engine's going to run a little hotter than normal, but not super hot, but enough to cook it. So you've got to watch those things. But yeah, I'd be leery of the quick fix of that. I'd probably be leaning more towards the engine.
Well,
but
for 8 or
you wanna
9
find
grand,
out
they were
what's
probably
wrong.
pulling the heads off and milling them and doing.
Well, and you could find a shop that's not one that takes a ton of time. So, you
that
should
sounds
be able to,
high if that's what they're doing too.
It is. You know, I could
and
see
the
maybe
new quote sounds high.
$5
But there again,
grand.
we don't know what all's being done, so we're just giving
And I
some
don't know
initial
where it's
thoughts,
at and what shop in the area and the costs and stuff.
Just
but
for our initial reaction to what our environment is used to.
Yeah.
Right. Mike, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Idaho and talk to Adam. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Adam, what can we do for you?
How's it going this morning, guys?
Great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I really enjoy your guys' show. I listen to you on the podcast. I just have a quick question for you. I can't find many mechanics left nowadays that can answer me this question on at least on a 1980 Toyota. I also have a 22 RE and a 94 that does the same thing, one being fuel injected, one being carbureted. But when it's wet and rainy outside, or I hit a small puddle, it tends to seem to cut out a little bit while I'm driving it. The things that I've done in the past is I have found water in the distributor, but every other time after that, there's no water in the distributor. Plugs, wires are all dry. And I've had multiple Toyotas in my days, and I can't seem to find the problem to that. What's causing it to lose power on colder days when it's wet and rainy?
I haven't seen one do that. We've been working with those things since they were brand new, and it's not something that we actually had a lot of people complaining about, unless they were driving one without fender liners or splash shields, and they had issues where they really were getting wet, because you get them wet under the hood. We couldn't wash the engines in those. You know, if you did, they would pop and bang and misfire, and they had issues with that. The distributor caps would get wet inside, just the way they were designed. So it's if you're driving and you hit a puddle or it's raining and wet, and that's the only time it does it, it has to be a moisture issue. You just got to find out where that moisture is getting.
That's what I was thinking.
And the
'Cause
carbureted
I
ones,
also have a 1980. Go ahead.
the carbureted ones, everything's in the distributor contained. The newer ones that are fuel injected, they have a crank sensor. You know, so that is a whole nother. Now you can get water down there. I mean, there's just different things. And the older ones, the crank sensor was in the distributor originally, but then they went to separate. It just depends on what the year break was there. I think it was 95.
Yeah, there was a 90, because I got the last year. I actually got this from my aunt when she passed away, and then I'm doing a full restoration on the 94. But I have an 83 that's LS7 swapped, that it doesn't do that. But when I fully restore these trucks, I have everything. I have everything, all the wet shields in the window or wheel well, and all that. But it's every Toyota I've owned, probably 14 of in my days, and every one of them has done it to me. So
It's because it never rains in Japan. They make them in Japan. They never rain.
We should be calling you, Adam, when we have a problem.
Yeah, because you sound like you are the resident expert on this
kidding.
truck.
There you go.
For sure. But I just can't let that. I can't let it go. What you just said. You have what year Toyota with an LS7 swap in it?
It's an 83.
Give us a quick rundown on that car, on that vehicle.
Basically I got the truck sit there in a field. I went and asked the guy, "Hey, what are you going to do with that?" He says, "Well, the motor's smoked on it." I says, "Okay, that's cool." And I had an LS7 sitting here in the garage that I was wanting to rebuild, and I got it fairly reasonably priced, and was gonna rebuild it one day, put it in a project truck. I'm also a rock crawler, so the more power in rocks, sometimes the better. And found it. I says, that's going to be a perfect job for it. And it took me about a year and 6 months to complete.
So this is a four-wheel drive with an LS swap then?
Yep.
Awesome. That's fun.
With with a W56 twin stick, dual stick transfer case.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. Oh, you're in the area of the country where that stuff is dominant.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to be able to, those kind of toys, or you're in the right area of the world. Well, thanks for calling the show. That's awesome. Or listening to the podcast, being a hoodie. We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the End of the Hood Show. Let's go to Iowa and talk to Justin. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Justin, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. I got a 2019 Cherokee. I believe it's got the 2.4, 91,000 miles. I've been around this vehicle. It's actually my girlfriend's, but it's been since February, and I've kind of noticed it since then. It seems to be getting worse. So on a tight corner, if you coast through the corner, you won't hear anything. But if you engage the accelerator a small amount, whatever amount, it's almost like the four-wheel drive. It's an all-wheel drive system or whatever system Jeep has, but it's almost like if you're driving a pickup truck and you got the four-wheel drive on when you're not supposed to on pavement or something, like it just binds and it kind of grinds a little bit. The shop that looked at it yesterday said he was 99%, and then he went to 95% sure that it was.
He's going the wrong way.
He's going the wrong way. So what can I do to verify it's not the front differential or that it is the PTU?
What was his 90? What was his 99 backed off to 99% assessment?
He thought because he had one in the shop. The PTU is notorious to be a piece of scrap or something, basically on Jeeps. So he was pretty confident that would be the fix, but he said there's none available. You can't find used. You can't find new, rebuilt. Like there's no options really out there, which probably means there's a big problem with them. But so it just kind of, there's no check engine lights, there's no transmission, traction control, ABS, like there's nothing electronically sensing any issue at the moment. I just have a feeling something's coming. I was just going to pick your brain on what I could do to further troubleshoot it, if I can disconnect the front drive shaft or if that's going to make more problems. I'm not sure.
Well, if it only binds sometime, disconnecting the shaft is going to stop the problem, but you still need to know if it's a PTU or a front differential.
Is the front wheels the ones that are binding up?
That's what it sounds like. That's what it feels like too when you're driving.
Because we sell a fair amount of rear differentials for them too.
Yep. And it could be the PTU is having a problem, but it could also be that the rear differential is the issue. Is this a V8 or a 6?
Just echoing up.
This would be the little one.
V6. I think it's little
2.4 liter.
2.4,
oh, it's a Cherokee.
Yeah, it's a small one.
If it's a small one, then it's got the rear diff. That's the issue.
The most common problem we see.
But we sell those. They're not impossible to get. You're going to go to Car Dash Part and you're going to find these all day long.
But there is a problem getting the right one sometimes.
Yeah, you got to go by the code. You got to get the codes
off the unit itself.
Yes, off the unit, not off the car. You don't know what's been done, and sometimes they put a different one in and they do some changing on them too. So at the dealer, but you want to make sure you get the right one if it's bad. But one of the quickest checks we do is we pull the plug and see what the fluid looks like, and if it's full of metal and junk, it's bad.
Sure. As I say, I would recommend servicing the fluid in the rear differential.
If it's had the wrong fluid put in it, it will cause issues.
And then
put the right fluid in, and it'll take a couple hundred miles to straighten back out again.
Sometimes you can fix it by getting the right fluid. Has it had a fluid bath change that you know of?
Not that I know of, but I don't know the full history of it.
Sure. Yeah, when you talk about the PTUs, there was a time, and I know we're in similar challenges right now, but during COVID and such, that they just weren't around. We had acquired a whole bunch of new ones and had them on the shelf, and they sold like instantly. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot of these little vehicles on the road too. They're quite popular. They're a good price point, and they're handy.
That's a good point to think about. That if someone it doesn't fix this type of vehicle all the time. They do all makes, all models, and if they tried 3 years ago to do something and it was impossible, it may or may not still be impossible.
And we've seen some of them come around where they're available, but there's other ones that the supply just kind of bounces up and down. And there's times where, no, nothing available. Then you wait about 3 weeks and like, oh yeah, we got 5 on the shelf. It's not the out of stock for 9 months like it was
right
or a year. That's definitely gotten better overall, wouldn't you say, Russ?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think I'd start off by doing some inspections of your fluids.
Justin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's a good idea to just start again. I mean, take a new kind of look at it and start over and make sure you're going the right direction. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bill. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bill, what can we do for you?
Oh, I've got a routine maintenance question on a brand new vehicle.
Okay.
2025 Murano, my wife's vehicle.
Do it, by the way. That's my answer to it. Do the routine maintenance if it's brand new. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, but the question, they're recommending brake fluid changes at $30,000. Gear oil transfer cases at $45,000. I can get along with that, no problem. But 7,500 miles on an oil change with a 2-liter turbo sounds like a lot of miles on that oil. I just question.
It's more than I feel comfortable with. Those turbo engines really build a lot of heat. There's a lot of wear, a lot of breakdown and stuff. They can put a heavy synthetic oil in it, and sure, the oil itself might be protecting, but you got a turbocharged engine. You've got a lot of blow by going on. You got a lot of things that are going to contaminate the oil. You still have contaminants in that oil. I'd feel more comfortable if they said, 5,000 mile oil changes. I'd feel a lot better about it. And if you got a car that you're not putting a whole lot of miles on, you're putting, not 1,000 miles a month on it, you're putting 500 miles a month on it, then you can go longer. And I would be probably apt to be doing 3 months, 3,000 miles or something, on something like that. Or just at least maybe even 5 months, 3,000 miles. But
The first oil change, I don't know how that Nissan is set up, but they might have that first oil change set up with a different oil in it from the factory. And so that maintenance interval would be something to pay a close attention to in their service guide. And then after that, I think your hunch is right based on our experiences. I think you want to bring that oil change down.
And if I do it earlier than they say, there's no issue. Yeah. It might be wasting money. Might be, but it's not going to affect anything in a negative way.
Yeah, I'm going to be closer to 5,000 miles myself. I know Russ is going to be at 3 and Chris will be at 10.
I'd be at 7,500, yeah. I'm at 7,500. Can I make an appointment for next month?
Let's see what he does for his new car.
Let's watch.
Yeah. Bill, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Car does that thing. That thing. Under the Hood has the answer you're looking for.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Ron in Wyoming. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Ron, what can we do for you?
Hello, good morning.
Hey, go ahead.
I have a 2004 Ford Ranger, and this is a drivetrain problem. At a stoplight, when I start to take off, you can feel a little bit of it almost feels like a U-joint that is really sloppy. It's kind of doesn't make a clunk, but it feels like a clunk, and actually it'll do it 2 or 3 times. And then when I come to a stop, it's almost the opposite, and I'm trying to troubleshoot this with the thing in park. I've had somebody push it back and forth, front to back, and I can see the rear differential kind of get down and up as it moves. So I'm not sure. It's not U-joints. It's not, and I don't know if it's slack in the differential, it's the gears or whatever. I'm kind of at a loss for it. I don't want it to come apart on me on the road.
Well, if your rear differential was getting loose enough that it was that much where you could feel it on the road, if you pulled it off and inspected things, you should be able to look at that differential and just see what kind of play is in it, what the fluid looks like, and either decide if it's serviceable and okay for a 1994 or if it's looking problematic. And I think that a keen eye is going to be able to tell that upon an inspection, because you got a cover that comes off nice and easy on that. You can see everything. They can inspect that rear differential really closely. I would have somebody take a closer look at the leaf springs, potentially. There could be something shifting in the leaf springs or leaf spring mounts. They had some.
Make sure they're tight.
Yep. Just check and see if those are shifting, or if there's something cracked in there, or a bushing or something.
Also, unbolt the drive shaft and turn the joint by hand and make sure it moves all directions nice and free, because they could be bound up.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, somebody mentioned the leaf springs that might be weak, and I did retorque the U-bolts just to make sure that they were tight, but somebody mentioned the leaf springs might be weak.
You're on the path then.
Yeah, I think that's something I'd pay attention to.
Ron, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Craig in Nebraska. Craig, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Thanks for your program and your expertise, guys.
You bet.
A couple of weeks ago, Russ really got my attention. I had agreed to buy a 2023 Buick Enclave with a 3.6 liter in it on about Thursday, and Russ was talking about replacing one on the program on Saturday. This vehicle has about 57,700 miles. I understand they've had timing chain and water pump issues.
That's the newer generation in that one.
Yeah, they're better in the new ones.
Yeah.
The problem we were having is the 2016 and older.
Yeah, it might even have went to 18.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we did a lot of those, but we haven't been doing timing chains in that new generation engine yet.
I would sure hope they figure out how to fix that problem after as many as they
Well,
had
they've
with
put
problems.
bigger oiling holes in the front to oil the chains, and I'm hoping that I've seen that looks like the oil change interval has gone down on when the dash tells it to change it. It's been more like 5,500 miles instead of 85 or whatever they were thinking. It's crazy. So yeah, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
I think this engine's pretty good, but I would still keep
the
it
one
on
that
maintenance
Russ was
program.
changing was not a result of a flat out failure. It was a vehicle that had been abused.
Yeah.
So that was a different situation, because that was a 21-2-3 Enclave we were talking about.
Well, that was a theft recovery.
Yeah, somebody had stolen it.
Yeah, and they overheated it. They killed the radiator and overheated it. But otherwise it would have been just fine. So yeah, you're good. I think you will want to do maintenance on this vehicle. You're going to want to do the fuel system maintenance. You're going to want to do the transmission maintenance on it. This one, I believe, is a drain and fill too. You got to check and see if it's a flush or a drain and fill, but keep that flushed. Coolant change is going to be around 100,000 miles on that, so you've got a ways to go yet for that. Systems like BG Fuel System Services on it to keep the fuel system clean. That's one thing you could do to it. It's one of our choices for fuel system cleaners. That would be, these things can all go a long way, because you've got a direct injected engine. If you leave those direct injected injectors alone and you don't do any maintenance to them, they have issues. In fact, if you look, one of the products that's BG 44K, they make an AC Delco 44K. It's BG canned in an AC Delco bottle, and Motorcraft makes it too, because the manufacturer, General Motors, recommends that for that vehicle. They want to keep those injectors clean. So if you ever wonder if anybody's additives out there, no matter who they are, if you wonder if they're needed or not, when the manufacturer says use them to keep this engine running.
When they have a part number for it?
Yes.
Right.
That means that they are doing their job. It's not something you shouldn't do. So keep that in mind.
Craig, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Arizona and talk to Kenny. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Kenny, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. My 2012 Jeep Liberty, I just wanted to give you an update on it. I would advise anyone who owns one to get rid of it. Never consider buying one.
There's plenty of them running around on the road. They don't have to all pitch them out. Yeah. But that's what'd you find?
Well, there was one other here in the area, or two others here in the area that I was aware of, and they all had the same problem. They would quit running on the interstate on between towns here. Mine would at least get to the end of the off ramp before it would quit, and then the highway patrolman and city policeman would help me push it off to the side of the road where I'd wait 1 hour, and it would start after 1 hour wait. But if you keep cranking on it, you'll ruin the starter and the battery. I tried to start it up here a few weeks ago, and I heard the loudest explosion I've ever heard come out of a car, and all this stuff that's pasted to the firewall, the stuff that looks like tar paper and whatnot, with little pieces of it were flying around in the air and stuff. And I walked around to the front, and there were flames coming out in between the engine, the back of the motor, and the firewall.
Fixed it. Did you fix it?
No, that evidently it blew up the my
Intake?
brand new intake manifold. My plastic intake manifold, which was brand new, $1,000 job.
I feel for you.
If it blows when an engine blows up an intake, it is usually because if you have a timing issue where a valve can be open when fuel is sprayed in and it ignites it while the valve is open, that will blow the intake off. And that can be because you had a timing chain jump and do that. The other thing that can do it is if there is an ignition issue where fuel is in the cylinder, it didn't get ignited, as the engine's turning over and it opens that valve and then it fires when it shouldn't, it can do that. So even heat, build up in there as other ones are firing. So something was definitely wrong with it before that happened.
Sorry about that, Kenny. Thanks.
I just feel so bad so you don't have it fixed yet.
Well, yeah, the 170,000 miles for the last 7,000 miles has cost me $1,000 per 10,000 per 1,000 miles. Each 1,000 miles over 100,000 has cost me $1,000, and I'm ending up with a car that's sitting beside my house, and I have to figure out a way to get it out of there.
That's a bummer.
There's going to be local salvage yards that would be interested in buying it if you are at that point.
Yeah.
They could come pick it up, and you could call 3 or 4 of them and get some different bids on it. I'm guessing it's pretty clean. It sounds like you take care of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is sad. It is really sad. With that many miles on it, it's probably a timing chain issue is starting to go bad, and then as it would heat up, it would just not quite run right, and it had to die because it just couldn't keep going. Oh my gosh.
Kenny, thanks for the call. Sorry about that. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the End of the Hood Show. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we want to hear from you.
Some are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. For these guys, it was a torque wrench and a multimeter. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the End of the Hood Show. Let's talk to Dale. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Dale, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. A couple cars to ask questions about. First one's a 2013 Taurus SEL with the V6. This is my daughter's car, and we're getting ready to sell it. She did something, got a different one. And so the first thing is like the battery. I would shut off the car, and the radio would shut off right away, and it said low battery. So then I just reset the battery terminals, and everything seems to be fine with that. But I've got some kind of parasitic rot, so if it sits a couple days, the thing is dead again. So that's the first issue I'm dealing with that. The second issue that might be related is now just recently it started surging some, and if you watch that, I don't have a meter to look at the fuel trims, but if you watch the instant gas mileage, it has like a 5 mile per gallon swing back and forth a bunch, like just in a matter of seconds. So I'm not sure what all's going on there with that one.
That mileage meter works off of vacuum, so if the engine's surging, it's going to jump all over the place. It's not the meter causing the problem. The problem is causing the meter to move.
Gotcha.
There's nothing wrong with the meter.
Well,
It's just that the car is
Yeah,
surging
I think he thought that. Yeah.
and jumping
Yep.
around. So you got to find out what's going on, whether that's some kind of fuel control issue, either mass airflow, vacuum leak, something like that.
I would
causing that thing
inspect
to-
at that age. I would inspect the entire air intake where the air cleaner sits. Back to make sure all those hoses are, or the piping, we'll call it plastic piping. Make sure everything's intact, sealed well.
Yeah.
That's the first place I would start. You know, with that many years of having air cleaners cleaned and taken apart, you can get a clip that breaks. I would
Okay.
inspect that area first. As far as the parasitic draw, you know, we've had a number of these calls.
Gotta get a meter out, start
Yeah,
checking.
and that is no fun at all. Is it? I know Russ asked this on an earlier call, but does it have a CD player in it?
It does.
Does it have a remote start? An aftermarket remote start?
It does not.
Okay, because those are some of our two most common things that we'll have people look at. Maybe try unplugging that radio and just let it sit with the radio unplugged for a little bit and see if you still have the battery issue, and that could help you eliminate where you need to look.
There you go. Yeah. Dale, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jesse. You're on the Under the Hood show. Jesse, what can we do for you?
How you guys doing today?
Great.
Today, I've got a 2010 Chevy Silverado, and of course, it's got the 5.3 with the notorious lifter knock to it.
Okay.
Is there an additive that I can put in it to help quiet it down?
Well, the knock you're hearing is probably not the lifters. It's probably in the bottom. Does it do it all the time or just when it's warming up mainly?
Just until it gets warmed up.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be a piston slap issue in there, which is not detrimental to the motor, but you can help that a little bit and help prevent some wear. BG Products makes an additive called MOA. It's a motor oil additive, and that can greatly help with a lot of these things like that, especially the wear, because it contains products to keep the wear down. That's one that's a preferred product to use. Give that a shot and see. But, you know, what you're hearing with that knocking, you don't have to be too worried about it because these engines will do that their whole life. A lot of them, when they hit about 30,000 miles, they start and they go on until these engines are 300,000-400,000 sometimes and don't have the problem. But that's going to help with the lifters to prevent them from failing.
Yeah, because the top end noises like lifters and cams and that sort of thing, they'll get the same noise as they get warmer typically. And so if the noise is going away as it gets warmer, it's less likely. Maybe you're really astute about hearing bottom end noise versus top end noise. Not everybody is. But our hunch is that it's probably a bottom end noise unless somebody's told you, hey, that sounds like your cam and lifters is making noise. And then we'll get a few of them sometimes that are that
But it's
way.
going away warm. So
Yeah, it sounds like it's not.
That's good news for Jesse, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Jesse, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Fran. You're on the Under the Hood show. Fran, what can we do for you?
I have a 2017 Honda Ridgeline, and I've heard you guys say this a long time ago, and my servicing, the Honda dealer, I have serviced everything on it as needed, has said something about the timing belt. That I have like 90,000 miles on it. They said that's something maybe should be considered changing. I think I've heard you guys say the same thing. What's your thoughts?
if it has a belt, yes, you're going to want to double check that and verify that one has a belt on it. 17.
I'm just trying I'm trying to look at the year range on that, and if it does, yeah, I'm just saying the exact same thing Russ said.
Yeah, always verify when you get into the later ones, because when you get past about 13, most everything is, the belts are gone now and they've gone to chains, but the Ridgeline hung out for a little longer. So verify it has one, but if it does have one, 6 years, 60,000 miles, at that point, it's time. Yeah, that's what belt manufacturers are saying. The factory says longer, but the belt manufacturer says no. So I go with the belt manufacturer.
That might still have one.
It could.
Because that's that previous generation.
Yep,
I think it's like
the old generation
19
with
or
the
20,
V6.
they changed that.
They ran up late like that. So
yeah.
Problem is we're not seeing a lot of them come in to know that because they're not. People are going too long on them, but then they come in when they need an engine, and then we put the new parts in them.
So yes,
Because if that belt breaks,
The motor's
motor's done.
The motor breaks too.
So I would definitely follow the advice of your service manager. If they've steered you well, just tell them, hey, what's this going to cost? They can show you the procedure they're going to do, and it'll be something you can schedule.
Fran, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Keith. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Keith, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Good talking to you. Hey, I've got a question about maintenance on a 2022 Chevy Colorado. Looking at the schedule, it calls for a transmission fluid change and filter at 45,000 miles. The truck's got 40,000 on it right now. But when I call the GM dealerships, they all talk about doing a flush. No need to do a drain and fill.
Right.
I just wanted your thought on which one is better, or what should I do?
On vehicles that don't have a constantly varying transmission, a CVT, the flush is recommended. There's no need to do a filter because when you flush it, we can look at the pressure gauges. And if the pressure gauges are fine, that means the filter's clean. If the filter's clogged, there's a problem with the transmission. It's made to catch garbage in the transmission. Some of them just have a screen now, and the screen is to prevent metal from damaging that pump and saving costs on rebuild and repairs. So yeah, we flush them out is the way we do it. We hook up a machine, all the fluid comes out that way. If you pull the pan and you drain it and do a filter, you're only going to get maybe a third, maybe a half at the most of the fluid out. So you're just putting cleaner fluid on top of the really dirty fluid. So flush it. That's the way to go.
There you go. Straightforward.
On this particular vehicle.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some that are not that way. So just it is important that you pay attention to the make and model you have.
Keith, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's go to New York and talk to Joe. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Joe, what can we do for you?
Yes, hi. I have the Audi A4 2004. Called in a couple of weeks ago regarding my persistent coolant leak.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the PSI OEM cover that comes, and I'm getting so much conflicting information if it's 22 PSI or 17 PSI. Is there a way to find out what's the correct cover?
If you go to the auto parts store, find an auto parts store that sells MotoRad products. They do lots of cooling products. They also do electrical components, tune-up items, things like that. But MotoRad is extremely good in their R&D department. We've talked to them extensively. They do a lot of research on their caps. That's where they really started. They were really big on closure caps, so fuel cap, radiator cap. But they will know for sure what that takes. So if you say, I want a cap for my car, they'll get you and it's a MotoRad cap, they're going to get you the correct pressure. You're not going to have to guess what it is because they know what that pressure is because they've researched it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be selling it. So they're really good. That's where I'd go to find out what the proper pressure is.
Does that help you out there, Joe?
Right. Yes. And is there a way to find out from what the OEM pressure is, or if it's not listed?
They'll know. They'll know. They write it right on the cap. When you buy a MotoRad cap, it says right on there 16 PSI, 18, 22, whatever it is, it's right on there. And the reason for the pressure is to keep the engine from boiling, but also allow it to release into the overflow bottle, into the surge tank, and draw it back in. It goes both directions, so it makes sure it keeps the system and the heater core completely full, but as it expands and pulls it back in.
Yeah, because Joe had the Audi that was blowing out seals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Joe, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Yeah, that was so to find that, you can go to, they will tell you which one it is for your vehicle. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Adam in California. Adam, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. So I have a 2014 Infiniti QX60,
And recently, or about, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months or so, I started noticing when I would go uphill, downhill, even on flat terrain, the RPM starts surging and surging until you let off the accelerator. And if you don't let it off, it's just going to keep on surging until it just starts dying down. And I had a transmission oil change at around 90,000. I'm at 145, and it's a CVT, so I don't really know what to do.
We're gonna first a shop's gonna have to determine if it's the transmission or a fuel system issue or something causing this problem.
Or
But if
ignition
it is,
or electrical.
yeah, if it is the transmission, it's very possible it is. It could be hunting for a ratio as that thing it variably adjusts, and it might be failing. It might have a problem. If you just had the fluid changed, the fluid does need to be changed at a regular basis on that. But if there is a problem going on in there, and they can look at the drums and everything with a scanner and see, they'll be able to tell if it's hunting for a gear. It might be electrical, but it might be that it needs a transmission.
Yeah, and you said it's been 40,000 miles since that fluid change, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's just a tough one. You got to have somebody that really can watch and analyze. But the good thing about it is that information can be looked at on a scanner as it's being operated, and they can analyze exactly what's happening. They don't have to guess. And so you just need to get it in the right hands of somebody that can do that, and you need to do that before it breaks something if it's not already broken.
Yeah, because there's really no way for him to tell, right? I mean, which it is. I mean, what part of it he needs to
It could be a misfire causing all kinds of things to get crazy too. So,
Adam, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, that's going to do it for hour 2 of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our social media channels, and you can always catch past episodes on our podcast. Thanks for listening to the Under the Hood Show. Let's do it. All right. Hey, this is the after show. It's going to be a little quicker here. Let me get this ready here and go over here and go like this and click that. Now let's talk to David. David, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, guys. So the deal is you guys have helped me before. I have this 2003 Corolla, and it's starting to have a lot of issues. But someone I know decided he didn't want to buy a new vehicle. He just wanted to go back and get a 1970s truck and fix that to cream top shape. And that would allow him not to have all these issues with electrical and catalytic converter.
Zombies, end of the world. I get it. Yeah, you don't want to have to.
Do you guys recommend that?
Sure, why not? they you want to protect yourself from zombies, you got to start somewhere.
What is it? Plugs, points, and condenser, right?
Yeah, you want to get rid of that and go with an electronic distributor, because the plugs, points, and condenser are the equivalent of today's CVT transmission. They're problematic. You go with an HEI distributor, it's all high energy ignition.
But then you're susceptible to an impulse.
Yeah, the EMP.
So are you with points and condenser.
Not less.
I remember you guys talked about that guy that had that vehicle that he wanted to be able to push to start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did.
Remember
that was a
that?
diesel. Yeah. That was a diesel.
Yeah, but you can push to start the gas motors too with points and condensers.
No, you don't have a spark. You don't have battery. You need battery to get it started. You can crank my Model T over with a magneto and fire it up. And a diesel, you can start. They actually sell an air starter. They used them on military vehicles for a long time, for years.
Really?
You can get an air-powered starter and an air tank in the back. You can get a hand crank air pump. You pump it up, and you can have two starters on this, air and electric, depending on the engine you get. Some of these diesels you could have. Remember the Fords and stuff? So anyways, you get a diesel engine that has a mechanical pump. So you open the fuel valve by hand, and then you use the air starter to fire it up, or you push start it. But if you're in your underground bunker hiding out,
here's what
you need the air
well,
starter
no,
to crank it.
it's a couple things. One is, you know, the craziness of the world, but the other is just the cost that I can do the work myself
Sure.
on this vehicle.
A lot of people drive older cars in warmer climates and stuff. You will be replacing and doing maintenance more on older ones. The older ones needed wheel bearing repacks and stuff like that. You did more stuff to it. You know, I drove a an 80s, early 80s truck for a long time, and I put enough miles on it. Oh, driving back to work here, back and forth to work for the first 4 or 5 years every day with it. I was doing taking the wheel bearings apart once a year and redoing it. I was putting oil seals in the rear end gear. You know, I mean, it was just things would leak and go up. But yeah, I could do it myself. It was just time consuming. Brakes would wear out quickly and stuff. It was just a different era. When a vehicle hit 100,000, it was completely shot back then. Or
they didn't start in the cold.
Well, mine did.
I mean,
but not like today where you just turn the key or use a remote start. You had to know the correct series.
I just have to mention the word carburetor, and I get less happy,
less enthused.
Yeah,
it seems like a good idea until
you say carburetor.
Right.
When they're working great, they're awesome. My 79 still starts.
Go drive your love wagon out there every day, year round. Try driving that for 1 year, year round. Can you imagine?
No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
David, thanks very much for the call.
Light a fire under it to warm it up in the winter, and then
I say go back further. Go hand crank. You get like where you gotta crank it over. I mean, go all the way. Magneto. Steam.
I have only started my Model T down to about 60 degrees.
And it was hard.
I was not able to do it any colder than that. I couldn't crank it. It's just you can't move it enough. You don't have to move it very fast, but it's like,
right.
You can't move that fast if you're watching the video with it that cold. It just will not go. If you leave the key off, you crank it by hand, which takes both hands as hard as you can, maybe 10, 20 times to get it to move a little, to stir up that oil. And then you pull out the choke and give it about 2 cranks, and then turn the choke off and flip it over to the battery position on the key because it's got battery on one side, magneto. If you're lucky, the engine will fire and it'll push itself and start on its own. That's the best thing you could hope for. If not, if you've already pre-charged it with enough gas to not flood it, but get the cylinders full, and then you put it on the battery side, you might be able to pull it over by hand. But those were tough days.
That sounds really fun.
They literally used to build a fire. You'd get charcoal, and you'd get a fire going. You put it in a metal pan, metal box. They had a box lined with metal that was wood, and they stick it under the engine.
That was the first hot box.
Under the
heat up the engine, the pan, in order to. You'd see some of these old ones, like probably your sister's auctions, where they're black on the bottom and they're burned because they would put the charcoal up on the pan to heat it up so they could fire it and get down the street to the doctors if they needed to.
You're
sick. In about 5 hours, I'll get the truck started.
So they can come down and do the bloodletting.
Right. Yeah. The leeches are all frozen.
Yeah. You want to warm up the leech tank.
David, thanks for the call. All right. I guess that's going to do it, I think. We got stuff to get to, right? So let's do it.
Hey, next Thursday, Art and Marie Nordstrom will be guests with Russ on the show.
Mm-hmm.
When we get done here, I've got to go over and start. We're getting to the end of the interviews for the book my mom is writing, and I've been involved in the last few chapters here, and so we're starting to get a wrap up on it.
You mean you only appear in the last few chapters?
No, just to help with some of the thoughts.
Okay. I just wanted to make I thought maybe this whole book was how much fun they had before you.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Well, they had some fun.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, I was just clarifying there.
No. So I'm getting involved in that, but no, it'll be good.
All right, guys, thanks. Subscribe, like, do the comments.